का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया भी कि आप लोगों ने इस दिन और इस वक्त अपना टाइम निकाला. And I want to first start off with the author, then we will have a little discussion on the subject. But what strikes me and what I'm most delighted with and proud of is that Ubaid took up this difficult task of documenting issues that have specifically to do with the Muslim community with a historical perspective, but almost every time a contemporary context. And that is something that you have to bear in mind, that when we do historical studies, they are usually steeped in the times that they exist, and we try and discover why things happened the way they did. But to then be able to tie them to what is happening in contemporary circumstances, especially in difficult contemporary circumstances where they are steeped in controversy, in debate, and in a situation where we are finding it very difficult to grapple with these issues. That's the biggest contribution that Ubaid is making. It is the biggest challenge that a historian has. And as I end my remarks, I want to put before you my personal dilemma on Waqf. And Ubaid, this is particularly for you. तो हम जब 10 साल पहले, 12 साल पहले, the Prime Minister had invited some of us to look at what had happened after the Sachar Committee. तो ये history you are familiar with, that Prime Minister मनमोहन सिंह ने 20 साल पहले एक ग्रुप बनाया और कहा कि भाई look at socio-economic condition of Muslims headed by Justice Sachar, and that's why it's called the Sachar Committee. Sachar Committee ने बहुत काम किया, the recommendations came out, and 8 years later when the Congress or the UPA was fighting the last election that it won, the question was that has anything happened after Sachar? तो उसके लिए प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने एक और कमेटी बनाई कॉल्ड द पोस्ट सचर इवैल्यूएशन कमेटी. तो उसमें हम कुछ लोग थे, और उसके जो टर्म्स ऑफ रेफरेंस थे उसमें एक जो नुमाया टर्म ऑफ रेफरेंस था वो था वक्फ, कि आखिर वक्फ प्रॉपर्टीज के साथ व्हाट हैपेंड आफ्टर सचर. All of us and some of, and apart from the 2-3 of us who knew very little, there were others who knew a lot about this issue. सब ने ये कहा कि भाई वक्फ इज अ टफ सब्जेक्ट, वक्फ हमारे समझ में नहीं आता, वक्फ के बारे में कुछ बोलना इज डेंजरस, सो लेट अस कट दैट चैप्टर आउट. हमने उसको चैप्टर को हटा ही दिया. दैट इज द बिग रीजन व्हाई आई एम सो प्राउड ऑफ उबैद्स रीसेंट वर्क टू टेक अप एन इशू दैट इज इजीली द मोस्ट डिफिकल्ट इशू टुडे. हमने तो हाथ धो लिए कि भाई हमसे नहीं होगा ये. वी डिड सम वर्क, but then we realized that this is too much of a Pandora's box to even touch. तो वो क्यों? Why is it too much of a Pandora's box? Firstly, and the fundamental problem is that हमारे मुल्क में, though we are claimed to be a market economy, और मैं इकोनॉमिस्ट हूँ तो ये मैं अपनी तरफ बात खींच ले रहा हूँ, एक अच्छी मार्केट इकोनॉमी जहाँ पे एक अच्छा मार्केट चल सकता है, उसकी दो तीन क्वालिटीज होती हैं, जिसमें से सबसे अहम क्वालिटी इज द फैक्ट दैट इन दैट कंट्री द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स इज कंसिडर्ड सेक्रेड. इफ यू टेक द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स, इफ यू टेक जर्मनी, इफ यू टेक ऑस्ट्रिया, जो भी बड़ी मार्केट इकोनॉमीज हैं, उसका फंडामेंटल रूल इज दैट द स्टेट विल प्रोटेक्ट योर प्रॉपर्टी कम वॉट में. आपकी प्रॉपर्टी है तो आपकी रहेगी. That is the fundamentals of a market economy. हम अब बड़ी शान से कह रहे हैं कि हम दुनिया की बड़ी मार्केट इकोनॉमी है. खाक मार्केट इकोनॉमी अगर वो लोगों की प्रॉपर्टी नहीं प्रोटेक्ट कर पाए. And these two cases are the major evidence for why India fails that test of protecting private property. Two cases I've said. One is Waqf, because Waqf is about property. It is about property that is owned in an Islamic sense by God, and in a legal sense by a body of people who are empowered to hold that in trust. और आप उसी को ट्रस्ट क्वेश्चन कर रहे हैं, तो कैसे, how can you test the fundamentals of a market economy and claim कि we are a great market economy? The second, and I don't know if you've guessed where I'm coming at, the second test जहाँ पे India failed and India's market economy and India's protection of private property failed completely was the Babri Masjid judgment. आप में से जिन्होंने भी बाबरी मस्जिद का जजमेंट पढ़ा हो, बहुत मुश्किल है, 1000 पेजेस का, आई एम वन ऑफ दोज फ्यू रेड इट, 1000 पेजेस में, राइट, उसका खुलासा मैं आपको बताऊं उस जजमेंट का, 1040 पेजेस का जजमेंट है, उसमें 900 पेजेस 1 to 900 में हर 3 पेज, हर 4 पेज के बाद ये जुमला आता है कि therefore it is proved that the masjid belongs to the Muslims. Therefore there is no evidence that this mosque was a temple. Therefore the title is very clear. If we see revenue records, the title belongs to the Muslim community. If you see the land records, the title. हर 3-4 पेजेस के बाद ये जुमला आता है. 900 पेज के बाद 700 पेज के बाद 200 पेज देन एक वो कुछ फिल्मों में नहीं होता, एक कहानी चलती रहती है, फिर सडनली एक कोई नई कहानी शुरू हो जाती है, वो समझ में ही नहीं आता कि क्या हो रहा है, तो वो 700 पेज के बाद एक नई कहानी शुरू होती है उसमें. वो नई कहानी ये है कि इट स्टार्ट्स क्वेश्चनिंग वेदर अ शिप, ये सुनिए, आपने नहीं सुना होगा, एंड दिस इज इंटरेस्टिंग. वेल, for 200 pages, the Babri Masjid judgment questions whether a ship is a legal entity or not. ये कहाँ से आ गया कि एक जहाज जो है, see, जब दो लोग लड़ते हैं कोर्ट में, तो both have to be legal entities. एक इंडिविजुअल हो, एक फैमिली हो, एक कंपनी हो, these are all legal entities. तो जहाज लीगल एंटिटी है या नहीं है, उस पे 200 पेजेस का जिक्र है. अब हम सब पढ़ रहे हैं कि आखिर ये कहां से आ गया. वो 200 पेज के बाद ये नतीजा निकलता है कि देखिए, जिस तरह जहाज, वो 1870-80 में जहाजों पे बहुत डिस्प्यूट हुआ करते थे, एंड सम कोर्ट्स देन रूल्ड दैट द शिप आल्सो कैन बी अ इंडिपेंडेंट लीगल एंटिटी. इट डजंट हैव टू बी अ लिविंग बीइंग टू बी अ एंटिटी, एंड देयरफॉर रामलला इज अ लीगल एंटिटी. That is how it was. It finally came. And फिर आखिरी के कुछ पेजेस में है कि ये सब तो सही है, ये सब बिल्कुल तय है कि मिल्कियत इनकी है, लेकिन फिर भी हम इनको दे देते. It is not, to my mind, the Waqf debate is not a debate of the solution of India's poverty, of Indian Muslims' poverty. To my mind, the solution, the debate on the Waqf is not even a Muslim issue. To my mind, the debate on the Waqf is India's constitutional issue. The constitution promises protection of life, liberty, property, and that is what gets harmed by this Waqf Amendment Act. And that is why we oppose it. And that is why I am so happy that Ubaidur has written this book. Thank you very much.
To put the record straight, what Aamirullah bhai has said, I must add something. That the government data accrued from different Waqf boards throughout the country, it brings the total land to close to 3.7 million acres within the country. And given the sort of the rise that have been seen in the land value across the country, even it's a village or city or even taluka, I'm not talking about Hyderabad and Delhi or bigger cities. Yeah, उसमें भी क्या हुआ है, the land prices have shot up. So the value of the Waqf land that is in the possession of the Muslim community within the country or under litigation. So I think that Aamirullah bhai has got somewhat confused, or maybe BBC has got confused, because the sort of study that I have done over the past, say, 3-4 years, I have been conducting studies, I have been seeing all sort of, say, papers and available resources. So what I am through is that the 37-acre land actually translates to 15,000 square kilometer. It's a huge, huge piece of land. It's 1.5 times the size of Lebanon. I'm not talking, it's a very small nation. And it's spread across the width and breadth of country. So, I mean, this is actually a debatable thing. And I think that, I'm sure that the BBC guys that did the story maybe sort of got it wrong. And many people get a number of things wrong. There is nothing sort of surprising about it. So the government data says, and even if you put together all the Waqf properties that have been mentioned and sort of estimated by, say, different Waqf boards throughout the country, and Waqf boards are actually being managed by Muslims throughout the country. Its scope may change, its, say, structure can change in coming sort of years, but till now, almost all the major Waqf boards throughout the country are managed by Muslim community. So its pitfalls, its drawbacks, its shortcomings, many of their sort of, it should be, the Muslims should be held accountable or responsible for what has happened to Waqf boards and the sort of corruption and misappropriation we have seen. A number of, I mean, a huge credit goes to the Muslim. I'm not absolving the government. Government is involved in everything. They want to take over the lands. And Waqf boards, despite their shortcomings, have fought to some extent. Muslim community has not. So it was just to respond to Amir Bhai. And so I'll give the mic to Ghayoor.
Thank you, Dr. Ubaidur Rahman. Thank you very much for having given us this session and coming out with such a fantastic book, which is so very well researched and so very well written. It indeed gives a tremendous insight into the issue of Waqf, and it does it from the very start itself. Just taking the point from there, there are 3.7 million acres, which Ubaid has put in the book. He also goes on to add that out of that, 2.2 million acres are under encroachment. So that is the hard reality of the Waqf issue. But we have gathered here to discuss this book, an otherwise fantastically researched book, and I would want to ask him also, and I would also want to think aloud as to why this book was not written a little earlier. It could have given tremendous, because the kind of legal history that it unfolds within itself is simply mind-boggling. Some people, some governments, mightiest governments, going out of their way to really grab some people's land and disempower them and bring them into a condition of wretchedness for having taken part in the Indian mutiny and all that. And on the other hand, there are same people from amongst them also who are fighting tooth and nail to prove to the world that civilized people do not do that. That is an institution, and it has been there for over a millennia, and it has been there intact. Arguably the first kind of an institution which has been there. Ubaid has very well dealt with that, and time is running out, so I would like to start off with the basic question is, in my understanding, the word Waqf must be coming from the word, three-lettered word Khaf, which means stop in Arabic. Everybody was having his own good time with that Sattar committee. Ab report aayegi na, abhi report aayegi, malum ho jayega. So all of that came, and then it went away also, and again that period of stupor went on. But people did not realize that is all that talking about, shouting about Waqf, and Muslims can do so much with the Waqf if they get it in their hand and if they can do it. It was not possible, it is not possible, it won't be possible. Because I know of instances, there was this member parliament gentleman who fought tooth and nail to get one Waqf property vacated from the city of Ajmer under the occupation of a bank which was paying, God forgive me if I am lying, but it was paying practically nothing for that big property, and it had the headquarters of the district for its bank. So this gentleman, God had given him that intention, Mr. Shaheen, if you will recall, member parliament, and he approached Mr. Chidambaram and fought tooth and nail, and Mr. Chidambaram was the finance minister. They got that property vacated. So when there are these Waqf properties that we are talking of, we are actually giving teeth to other people to foremost start envying us. Arey bhai, itna hai inke paas. The one thing the book misses is that there should have been some comparative statement about what is the Waqf for endowment lands or properties that other people have. Mind-boggling. Just Orissa will outshine any other state in India in the matter of Hindu endowments. Like that, these figures, if they put together, they far outpace or outshine the Muslim Waqf properties, but still everybody talks of Muslim itni lands hai. So a few years back, just 4-5 years back, please allow me to say that this lady, I don't know who she was some kind of a leader, not a very big leader. She went to Dwarka in Gujarat and she came out shouting at the top of her voice that Dwarka is such a sacred place, such a holy place for us, and here I find all of the properties belong to Muslims. They are all Waqf properties. So that day I thought there is another nail being hit in the coffin of the Waqf. Because from then on, yes, a concerted effort is being made. I will have no hesitation in saying that. This assumption of property in a disguised way is very bad. But coming back to our topic here, let us please be informed as to how Mr. Nehru and then Indira Gandhi and then other people coming from the 1954-55 Act to up to the 2013 Act, what was the scene like? We did not announce it, but there must be some question-answer sessions also. So if somebody is interested in asking any questions, I think we should allow that. Is anybody interested? Any question?
Which is a state, or which are the top 3 states with the maximum holding, and what is happening in those states from the point of view of the holding as well as the benefits that the people are getting, and what is it that you would like that the current rules will allow us to improve on?
All the states have decent amount of Waqf land, and a number of. I have written it in detail, complete detail, numbers, where, how many, how much. The important thing is that in a number of places, poor people who are the intended beneficiaries of the Waqf or endowment are actually benefiting from them in a number of places. Orphanages are functioning in a number of places. Educational institutions are being patronized and supported by Waqf lands. And there are other pieces of lands that actually have been endowed to different educational institutions, and then they get the benefits out of that. So despite the shortcomings, I must add that the Waqf properties within the country continue to support a number of people, poor people especially, though their performance actually falls much short than what it should be. So we think that they should function better, in better way, in much more efficient way. That is not the case, but to tell that they are dysfunctional or not benefiting the poor or the Muslim, I mean, it's stretching it too forward. Yeah.
What is the future of the Waqf land? There are cases which are very weak documentation. People have no, as you said, in some cases, people have no documentation also. So what will happen to those disputed lands? But it is known as Waqf. But is it going to be occupied by the government in some cases, or what? I don't know. I mean, there are a few other questions, but I would leave it first of all to this thing. Thank you so much.
We hope for the best, and hopefully, inshallah, those Waqf lands will remain Waqf and nobody is going to take over them. And the important thing that we should actually approach the Waqf, because the pace of submission of the forms or the details on Umeed was very slow, and initially we did not start it at all because of the fact that Muslim Personal Award Waqf Board had ordered people not to upload their details on Umeed portal. So we started at least 3 months late. So hopefully 4 months late in the case of Telangana. So in 2 months, if the people are able to sort of say document, provide all those details of Umeed, it was a miracle of sorts that some people did. But hopefully extension is going to be provided. In UP, extension has been provided. How it is actually implemented and how people are able to do that is something that we will see later on.
The issues what we are having within the society, we are never going to those people, but simply we are blaming to the government, the other people who are coming and advising us. The serious problem is the people who are responsible to protect the Waqf land, our social problems and all. Nobody is approaching them. It is not a layman problem. It is the problem that people who are sitting in the chair, they should protect us. Are they doing that? Why the government, why the Waqf lands people are occupying? Because they are not taking any interest over there. What happened to the land co? What happened to the Begum Guttala, Begumpet? Are they not useful to us? Simply we are creating in the public awareness, but we are not responsible. You must go to the people who are sitting on the chair. They should protect. We should go and agitate over them. Kindly excuse me if I'm wrong.
We don't act. When we see somebody throwing, say, rubbish in front of our house, ideally what we do, we actually ask somebody to remove that. We don't take any action against the person who did. So similarly in this case also, people were able to do whatever they were able to do, squander away the Waqf land, take over the Waqf land, do whatever they wanted to do, and we never approach courts of law. We should have taken proactive course action. There should have been some civil organization that should have been acting on those, against those people, against the people who were misappropriating, because we did not. So we are at this juncture right now. So if you want that to be reversed, we need to become proactive in at least now. Please become proactive.
How we can introspect in ourselves, because this dispute has been arising, so many issues I have witnessing in the courts. So we have to introspect within ourselves. So what is your suggestion regarding this, sir? And the second question is that what about the unregistered Waqf properties? What is the plan we are going to implement in coming future, sir?
Something else, I mean, you can change it into a trust or any organization and sort of tell your descendants that it is Waqf, but I mean, don't go to and sort of do that. It's my personal opinion. Or if you want, you can go and sort of register in Waqf, the important thing about Waqf is that it's not about registration. Waqf is endowment. You actually intention to create a Waqf and it becomes Waqf. And it becomes Waqf in perpetuity. You wouldn't have any claim. So if you are sort of establishing a school or a madrasa or say hospital for poor, you can do that at your level and tell your kids and descendants that it is Waqf, and they will manage, or you create a sort of appoint a mutawalli. It continued this way. I mean, this Waqf board is a very new idea, 100-year-old idea. Not more than 100-year-old. So the second thing is that the internal squibbling within the Muslim community is very natural. It happens everywhere. We will have to sit together and sort out those issues. You want to say something, please?
Ji. My question was about the Waqf Act 2025. Because I have been associated with, you may be aware, I was Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Telangana State Waqf Board in 2021 for 8 months. And then recently I was the authorized officer for the Telangana State Waqf Board, Urdu Academy and Hajj Committee. I wanted to ask you a question as to who are the people who are behind formulating this act, which came into force in April 2025, because as I understand, the Central Waqf Council has been defunct for the last 3 to 4 years. So who are the brains behind this destructive act?
This is a question whose answer I don't actually have. I mean, there are a number of dysfunctional organizations as far as Muslim community is concerned, and if you go to Delhi, to minorities say Ministry of Minorities Affairs, you will get some idea about it. मैंने इस किताब में जो हिंदुस्तान में वक्फ के बारे में जो चीज़ें भी हो सकती हैं, I have tried my best to do my part. Now I leave the field to you to explore it and do as you wish.